We are 1 week away from the start of the NFL Combine, so thought I would do a 2-round mock draft today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Let's get into it then, starting with the first overall pick with the Tennessee Titans. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. Yes, I think they will answer the phone about potentially trading down, but if they can't get a good move, then I think you stick and you take Abdul Carter. 66 pressures in his final year, as many as Nick Bosa had in his final full season at Ohio State. They've got to rebuild that roster. They can't just keep drafting young quarterbacks and watching them fail. They've actually got to build a roster. You start to do that with Abdul Carter at number 1. At number 2, I don't think the Browns are going to take a quarterback. I think they are going to sign Kirk Cousins. I've been saying that since the end of the season because you can get him for $1 million. He had 2 great seasons with Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota. You can just get out the other side of this wretched Deshaun Watson era and his contract, and you can probably take a quarterback in round 3 or round 2 and get better value there. They've got to refresh aspects of their roster. And when they had Joe Flacco a couple of years ago, they did make the playoffs and they were a dangerous team. So I think they can be good again. I think if there's anybody who can get anything out of Kirk Cousins, it is Kevin Stefanski. I have them staying here, drafting a different position and taking Travis Hunter at number 2. At number 3, nearly every mock draft has the Giants taking a quarterback. I am going to have them taking a different player. Mike Garofalo was with Puck Sports today, Jason Puckett. Check out his channel. And he said that there's just a little bit of a feeling that this is maybe done between the Rams and Matt Stafford. If that happens, a lot of people are saying it already. His brother-in-law is working for the Giants now. It is a match. It is a fit. You would imagine that the Giants would be interested in trying to strike some kind of a deal to get Matt Stafford. Their GM and head coach are under pressure. If you can go and get Matt Stafford into your team, why wouldn't you do that? I have got them pulling off a trade here and then just going best player available at number 3. That is Mason Graham. They take Graham here at number 3. They have Matt Stafford. I think this will be the best all-round scenario for the Giants to be relevant in 2025. At number 4, do not see a franchise left tackle in this draft whatsoever. So I am going to have the Patriots taking Tyler Warren. I've been mocking this for a while. Tyler Warren was Drew Aller's BFF in 2024 when Allen needed a check down, when he needed an explosive play, when he needed to attack the seam. Everything went through Tyler Warren. Give Drake May that kind of a weapon. We have seen what an unbelievable tight end can do in New England. Mike Vrabel has seen what an unbelievable tight end can do in New England. So usually you would try and get an amazing receiver for your young quarterback. Think of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase or even T. Higgins. There isn't that kind of a receiver here. Go and get him Tyler Warren. I've got the Patriots spending a bit of money in free agency to improve their offensive line. If they can get that done, they can totally justify getting a number 1 target for Drake May at number 4. Tyler Warren could be Drake May's best friend moving forward and the key to his success with the Patriots. At number 5, the Jaguars need a playmaker in the secondary. Will Johnson had a challenging year with injuries in 2024. He is still a really, really good player. This would be a really good pick for the Jaguars. And if Mason Graham is not there, it makes a lot of sense to pivot to a different Michigan defender. Okay, number 6, the Raiders. People are they're either going to love or hate this pick. Let me explain it. Sam Darnold is going to sign for the Raiders, in my opinion. Pete Carroll reportedly was a big fan. When all of the trading Russell Wilson stuff first emerged, that saga in 2021, multiple reports said, just keep in memory, in your mind, that Pete Carroll really likes Sam Darnold. So if Wilson was going to get traded in 2021, that's when Adam Schefter put the 4-team trade list out on Twitter. If he was going to go, the reports were the Seahawks would pivot and try and trade for Sam Darnold. He ended up going to Carolina instead that offseason. So there's an interest there. Tom Brady's making the decisions, not Pete Carroll, and the GM's making the decisions, not necessarily Pete Carroll, but they need somebody who can help them be competitive and win now. They can't have another year with just some rookie quarterback struggling through some growing pains in the loaded AFC West, or having another absolutely terrible veteran stopgap player playing. They need somebody who has actually made something happen in the NFL. And you can say that about Sam Darnold now. He had a good year with Minnesota. So I think they're going to sign Sam Darnold, pair him with Chip Kelly. Feels like a good match. And they are going to draft somebody here. who can help them build a culture, who can help them run the football, who can help them be physical up front. I'm going to have them taking Tyler Booker. And another thing that I think is in favor of this, I have not seen a guard have as good a tape as Tyler Booker since Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson was taken 6th overall. The Colts do not regret that decision. So I'm going to have them taking Tyler Booker here. And it might not be what everybody else thinks they will do. I still think there is a chance that this could happen. Jets are number 7. I'm going to have them taking Cam Ward. Now, for me, Cam Ward is not a top 10 player. I don't think there's any quarterback in this draft worthy of that. I think there is a group of quarterbacks that are going to go in rounds 3 and 4 that are going to be good value. And maybe even round 2. I don't think there's any value to be had with drafting a quarterback here. Cam Ward has got some great creative ability and some tools, but his creativity can also be his downfall sometimes. He scrambles too much. He drifts backwards. He gets himself into trouble. I'll never forget that awful throw across his body for a horrible interception last season. There are good things and there are bad things. I'm interested to see how he measures. I don't think it's a surefire thing that he's going to go in the top 3, like everybody seems to think. I just don't think this is a quarterback draft for that, right early in the first round. He's not a legit first-round talent. But I think when you get to number 7, you've got a desperate franchise. I think his personality and his character is a perfect fit for Aaron Glenn. I think that's a good match for the head coach and the quarterback. So I've got the Jets taking Cam Ward here. Number 8 for the Panthers. Again, this one might seem like a little bit off to a lot of people. I think Colson Loveland's fantastic. I've been saying since last summer that he is a really, really good player and the league's going to like him a lot more than the internet. And I think that's definitely going to be the case. Expect a good combine. I think he can be an exceptional target for Bryce Young. He can be an X factor in that division and make some big plays for them. I think his blocking will improve as he gets stronger. I just think he's a really good player. He's one of the few legit first-round talents in this draft. So I think he's going to go in the top 10. At the absolute latest, I think 14 to the Colts is his floor, and he could go as high as number 8 here to the Carolina Panthers. I think he's a really good player. Number 9, this is probably going to be controversial. I am not putting him there because he went to Boise State and so did Kellen Moore. I just think Ashton Jeanty is going to be he's the best player in the draft, and his grade's going to be the best. I think some teams might knock him a little bit down just because of his position. So you say Abdul Carter's up there and he plays a more premium position, so we'll put him above Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty, in terms of pure grade, pound for pound, best player in the draft. Yes, the Saints need receivers. Yes, the Saints need fresh, young defenders. If you can put Ashton Jeanty on the field with Alvin Kamara, you can create a two-headed monster. The Lions have done very well with that. Kellen Moore's just won a Super Bowl with an unbelievable running back in the backfield. And the Saints roster's not as good as the Eagles is. But do you know what? Ashton Jeanty can drive things on that. He is such a really good player. Someone is going to take him early. It's going to be unpredictable. I think there's a very good chance he will go in the top 10 purely because of his talent, just like Bijan Robinson did, just like Saquon Barkley did. Jahmyr Gibbs went very, very early. There's absolutely no reason for Ashton Jeanty to go a lot later than Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think there's a very good chance that he will go this high. And I have to say, I'm not one of these people who's like anti running backs going early. I think if he's a good player, is a really good player, you take him in this range. And I think Ashton Jeanty is the best player of the draft in terms of like pure grade. Number 10, the Bears. It seems pretty obvious that they are going to go with an offensive lineman. I'm going to have them take Armand Membu. Really, really good player. Combine will be a big thing for him because he's expected to test very, very well. You might end up coming out of the combine saying you can probably play him tackle, you can play him guard. I think that would be a really good. I think that's what they need to do. They need to build up an offensive line, and I think that's what they're going to start doing here with the 10th overall pick. 11. When I think of the Niners at their best, it's with a great defensive line. I am not a big Kenneth Grant fan, but he's going to go to the combine and run crazy times at 340 pounds, and people are going to talk about him going this early. I think he's a splash player. I don't think he shows enough aggression down to down. I think he plays in fits and starts. I wanted to see more given he was playing next to Mason Graham. But when he has a great combine, he could go in this kind of range. Cowboys, number 12. I'm going to give him Luther Burden. I think he's a really good player. I think people are sleeping on him. I don't think he is a great fit for what Missouri wanted to do last season. But great character, good player. I think perfect complement for CeeDee Lamb. I think it makes a lot of sense for Dallas if they want to be a bit more explosive. I think he's just a really, really good player. Get the ball in his hands and let him go to work. Miami at number 13. I'm going to give them Jahdae Barron. I think he is the closest thing to Cooper DeJean. I think in this draft, I think the fact that DeJean was so good for the Eagles will make teams think we don't want to miss out on somebody like that again. And I think that's the kind of player he is. Great character, playmaker, physical in the run game, despite not having the biggest size. And he's such a good player. Cy Clancy, who I respect a lot, who covers the Dolphins, was talking him up as an option for Miami at number 13. So I'm going to cede to his knowledge on the Dolphins and stick Barron here at number 13. Number 14 for the Colts. Now, this is a player that I'm not crazy about. I think Will Campbell is overrated. I think he's got short arms, 32-inch arms. He had a bad season, given how much everyone was talking him up during the season. I don't think he played very well for LSU. I don't think Emory Jones did either. And I think he might have to kick inside to guard. Now, he's going to test amazingly at the combine. So that's going to help him a little bit. I just don't think he's a left tackle. And I think he's going to go later than people think. Now, the Colts do like very athletic players, and they have been prepared to draft and start tackles with sub 33-inch arms. I think both of their starters are in that range. So they might be the ones to take him, and they might play him at guard initially and then kick him outside in the future. They'd have some options there. It's not Indy's biggest need, but it's the kind of player that they've been interested in the past. And if they really rate him high, and clearly some people do, they might think, we've got to take this guy. We can't pass up that opportunity. Falcons are number 15. A player who promised quite a lot, Mikael Williams, didn't really deliver during the season. Had some injuries, had a tremendous game against Texas in the first game. Didn't do that enough of that. But he's big, but looks lean somehow. And he's so young. You just think maybe in a year or two, he could be really, really good. I'm always dubious of these players who don't really consistently produce in college, who are young, who are going to take a bit of time, but they always end up getting drafted early. And I could see the Falcons keeping him in Georgia, keeping him in state, and taking him at number 15. Number 16 is another player that I'm not that crazy about. He undoubtedly looks like an absolute ball of power, does Mike Green. And the tape at times is good. You know, he can dip inside. His inside counter's good. He can rush the edge. I thought at the Senior Bowl, if anyone has ever had that, he and Gray Zabel were so overrated with the way they performed. And I like Gray Zabel a lot. I like Mike Green. But my God, I don't know what people were watching when they are. I mean, I just don't think they are. I think it's just groupthink. He just kept spin move, spin move, spin move. It didn't win once. And then he had that one play against Josh Conley. And everyone's like, wow, he had an amazing Senior Bowl. Testing's big for him. The Cardinals need a bit of a spark off the edge. They've taken bigger players. Maybe now it's time to take somebody a little bit different. I've got Mike Green in his 17.5 sacks going here at number 16. Don't like the way he left the Senior Bowl after 2 days either. That's just, it's not cricket, as we would say over here. Jalen Walker at number 17. I think part of the problem is Jalen Walker for half the season looked better than Abdul Carter. And then in the second half of the season, you barely recognized on the field. And you just wonder, is he big enough to rush the edge? 6'2", has he got the length? Is he a bit of a tweener? It's some teams will say dynamic hybrid could be a poor man's Micah Parsons. Others will say he's just a tweener and he's caught between two positions, and that could keep him on the board a little bit longer. And Jalen Walker could go in the top 10, and Jalen Walker could last the Seahawks at 18. Like he's got quite a varied range that he could go. But if he gets to number 17, the Bengals, they need more playmakers on defense. It's just kind of Trey Hendrickson. So he could potentially be somebody who helps out in that regard. Seahawks are number 18. I think they'll be quite happy with this. Kelvin Banks Jr. lasts to number 18. He's somebody that I've been projecting as a guard all the way through the college football season. I just don't think he's very comfortable at tackle. I think he is somebody who needs to kick inside. Now, if you needed him to play tackle in emergency, that's fine. But I don't think he's a tackle. Elijah Vera Tucker had to kick inside, but you kind of thought that's mainly because of the arm length and stuff like that. but you could see that he could hold down tackle. I thought Elijah Vera Tucker's tackle tape was better than Kelvin Banks Jr.'s. And at the same time, I do think that Kelvin Banks, it's more about the fact that he needs to kick inside for me. I just think he'd be better there. I think his run blocking can be better there. It's always good to have a multi-position player on the offensive line. But if you plug Kelvin Banks Jr. in, good zone blocking grades, next to Charles Cross, hopefully next to a new center, then you're starting to inject some talent into that offensive line. And I think Kelvin Banks Jr. would be a decent selection here for the Seahawks, number 18. Number 19 for Tampa Bay. James Pierce, I was really surprised to see that his run defense responsibility, so the plays that he was responsible for in run defense, that it was so high for James Pierce. It was like him and the Boston College pass rusher, who's second Emma Butcher. They were both really good because that's I've always kind of watched tape and thought, I don't think he's going to be very good setting the edge. But he's perhaps better than, maybe I need to go and review that a little bit. The thing with him is there's a little bit of stiffness. He doesn't bend the edge like Braden Swinson does or people like that. But he's shown the kind of qualities that, and he just looks the part. Just to look at him, you think that's what an NFL pass rusher looks like. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have tried different players in this range. They haven't really drafted anybody who looks like James Pierce Jr. So I think that for that reason, they might go, yeah, this guy looks the part. We're going to take him here. Another player who's going to get mixed reviews is Shamar Stewart. I didn't like the fact he was spelled as much as he was for Texas A&M. When he was on the field, you saw some really good moments, but he never finished plays. He was kind of nearly making the play all of the time. That could keep him on the board. We know that Sean Payton likes edge defenders just like this. They traded to get Marcus Davenport. That Shamar Stewart reminds me of that kind of a player. So I can imagine the Broncos being interested in him here. Pittsburgh at 21, I think a player who he's going to need to test well and not show stiffness in his transition when he's doing the back pedal drills. But I think Azareye'h Thomas has shown with his tape in a difficult year for Florida State and how he performed at the Senior Bowl that he deserves to go in this kind of a range. I've got the Steelers finding a solution somewhere on the open market. Maybe it's Aaron Rodgers. Maybe they just bring one of Wilson or Fields back. We will see, but I'm going to have them taking a veteran quarterback to start and then drafting Azareye'h Thomas. And he kind of just, for me, just gives off a Steelers vibe. So I think he's good. He's a really good player, and I think he could be a riser if it's a good combine. 22 for the Chargers. I don't really feel comfortable giving them a receiver because of what Harbaugh's mentality is, but it is their biggest need. I mean, obviously, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are not there anymore. Khalil Mack is going to become a free agent. He's going to carry on playing. And if they lose both edge rushers, that's going to be an issue. And they might want to tap into that. But there's other picks where they could maybe get one there. If they could put someone like McMillan, very natural receiver, I don't think he's going to test very well, but very natural body control, contorts his body in the air, adjusts to the ball better than anybody else in this class. It really is a marvel, some of the things that he does. And that could be a good thing with a quarterback like Justin Herbert. So I think this does make some sense at pick 22. 23, Green Bay. I think this defender, again, testing will matter. But Donovan Eze Ruaku, I think is how you say it. I went back and watched his tape again. And man, I've been underrating this guy. Like he defends the run so well. His arm length is such an asset for him. He's powerful with his hands. He works inside. He works the edge. He shows quickness off the edge. Like I say, defends the run better than you'd expect. I think he's a really good player. A really, really good player. And it would not surprise me if he goes ahead of some of these other pass rushers, the James Pierces, the Shamar Stewarts. I think he's a really, really good player. Minnesota at 24, Walter Nolan. Again, run defense, terrific. Surprisingly good for a player of his size. Only scratching the surface as a pass rusher, though. Doesn't have a great win percentage. He kind of had a couple of really splashy games towards the end of the year, but there were also a few games where you're thinking, what's all the fuss about here? So a player who is only really scratching the surface of what he's capable of, but someone will draft him to try and flesh that out. Houston, at 25, they've got to improve the offensive line. Donovan Jackson. Apparently, he's got 36 inch arms, which is when that happens next week, his stock should rise. And he's a really good player. And he did a really good job at left tackle and was even better at left guard before he had to kick outside because of the injury to Josh Simmons. 26 Rams. If they move on from Matt Stafford, I think Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders make a lot of sense for the Rams. And Sanders, it will suit him and his dad. Bright lights of LA, working with Sean McVay. I think he is a good fit for the McVay offense. McVay will need to kick out of the scrambling and trying too hard to make big plays and taking too many self-inflicted sacks and pressures and all of that. That's got to come out of his game, but it just seems like a fit to me. And I do think there's a chance he's going to last. Physically, nothing special. There is some talent in terms of accuracy. He will take a sack for 18 yards that's totally unnecessary in one play and then convert 3rd and 25 on the next play. That's kind of what Shedeur Sanders is. But I've just got a feeling that if it's not going to be like the Raiders early or somebody like that, that maybe the Rams end up with Shedeur. We will see. Ravens at 27. Could have gone in a few different directions, but they need a safety. I think Malachi Starks' stock has gone falling off because he had a bad second half of the year. Like there were so many bad moments in the second half of the season, and he might drop out the first round. It's distinctly possible. If he tests well, that'll help. But I think he could fall out of the first round. But if it clings in at the end, the Ravens make some sense. Detroit at number 28 can kind of go best player available. Matthew Golden was the best receiver for Texas by a mile. I think probably the best offensive player overall on that roster, on a talented roster. So I think this will be great value for the Detroit Lions. Not a huge need, but best player available. Washington at 29. Josh Simmons was the best tackle in the draft. Injury may keep him on the board this far, the knee injury. Combine medicals will be vital for him if he gets a full, clean bill of health. And I'm guaranteed that Drew Rosenhaus's agent will be telling everybody he's perfectly fine and going to go in the top 10. And maybe he will, because the talent would have got him there if it wasn't for the injury. But the injury's there. So it could affect him a little bit. At the minute, until we have positive feedback on that injury, I'm going to have him lasting into this kind of range. But he's a really good left tackle, pure left tackle, the best pure left tackle in the draft. Commanders get a steal here. Buffalo at 30. I think, again, a team that can kind of go best player available. Jihad Campbell had a really good year for Alabama. He's probably the only player on the defense who had a consistent year. So I've got him going 30 to the Bills. Okay, I am going to do one trade and one trade only. In this mock draft. And I am going to have the New York Giants trading up to 31. I'm not saying that this is what they would do. I'm just doing it in order to get them to be able to move on. So I ignore the compensation. I just need them in the spot so I can do it for my mock. I'm going to have them moving up. And you say, well, what you got them moving up for? So they've got Matt Stafford and they can commit to Matt Stafford. I then have them, because Matt Stafford he's not a young player. Like he's like a 1-2 year type of deal here. How old is Matt Stafford? He is 37 years old. So we're not talking about a long-term option here. So the best thing for the Giants is to get Matt Stafford to help them win now, and then to go and draft a young quarterback to learn and develop in the background to eventually take over. I have got the Giants trading back into the back end of round 1, above the Cleveland Browns, to make sure that they get Jackson Dart. And then they get the 5th year option as well, which could be useful seeing as they're going to sit him for a year or two behind Matt Stafford, have him learn the ropes, no pressure to start him. I think that would be a good plan for the Giants at the position, to have the immediate starter and then the longer term option waiting in the wings. I think that would be the right thing to do. And then the Eagles at 32, another team that can kind of go best player available. Nick Emanwari is going to have an unbelievable combine. And yeah, like I say, it's just one of those where the Eagles just get a great player at the end of the first round and just let the draft come to them. It's the benefit of being a good team that ends up picking 32nd overall to win the Super Bowl. So on to round 2. Cleveland need an edge rusher. I am going to give them Princely Uman Mielen. And I've got mixed views on him. I kind of mix between, I think he's more second, third round. But if he tests well, and because of his body type, you could see him kind of going in this range. And the Browns might need an edge rusher, either to pair with Myles Garrett or to replace him. Chiefs moved down a couple of spots. I am going to have them take Josh Connolly here. Now, Josh Connolly is not going to be for everybody. And Browns fans might say, well, why didn't you put Josh Connolly at 33? For me, it's just too similar to Jedrick Wills, who they've just moved on from. I think they're going to go for a different type of tackle. And I think there are going to be tackles in round 3 or free agency that they could get to do a job for them. I don't necessarily think taking Josh Connolly here and saying, okay, we're going to draft almost the exact same type of player is the right kind of move. But for the Chiefs, they do need someone who can play left tackle. And Connolly, although he had some struggles at the Senior Bowl, but he's gritty. He's different to anything they've tried already. They need something there. It's not going to be easy for them to fix that hole in free agency. So, yeah, I've got them taking Josh Connolly there and just sort of saying, okay, we'll give this guy a try. Because that's kind of what they've got to do. And they don't have a ton of needs, the Chiefs. 35, Tennessee. Mika Ibuka. They need another receiver in there, and he could be a really solid player for them. Solid, not spectacular, but very, very solid. Jacksonville at 36. Mason Taylor's getting a lot of buzz. Engram, I don't know how much of a long-term thing that is. Mason Taylor could be a good option for Trevor Lawrence there. Add another weapon. 37, Las Vegas. They need some explosion. They need some excitement. And Trey Harris is the kind of receiver that we know Pete Carroll likes. And again, it's not necessarily that he's going to be making all the decisions here. That'll be Tom Brady, but Tom Brady likes a player like this as well. And with Sam Darnold's arm, if he is signed, having the ability to throw it deep to Trey Harris could be a big deal for the Raiders. They need that sort of explosive ability, and Trey Harris can produce that. 38, New England. Build the trenches. Like I say, offensive lineman in free agency for the Patriots. Get some guys later on as well. There's going to be some options in round 3. I've got them taking Landon Jackson. It just, to me, just feels like a Mike Vrabel type of player. He's a dude. He's an alpha. He's big. He's built like a Terminator. I've just got a feeling that's a kind of player that Mike Vrabel's going to really like. And I think some teams are going to rate him higher than some of these other guys. So I think there's a chance he goes quite early. 39, Chicago. Go and get your own version of Sam Laporta. And Elijah Arroyo gives you a chance to do that. Body control, hands, speed, difference maker at tight end as a receiver. New Orleans at 40. I know they need receivers. Don't think this is the time for it now. They do need edge rusher. I am going to give them an edge rusher here. I'm going to give them Josiah Stewart. I really like Josiah Stewart. I've liked him all season. Best pass rush win percentage in the college football. And wrecked a game against USC. Just such a good player. And will go a bit earlier than I think people realize. Bears back on the board. Continue to build explosive offense. Travion Henderson. Lightning quick. Again, we've seen what the Lions could do with unbelievably explosive weapons. They've got good receivers in Chicago. Now you've given them a move tight end who can be Sam Laporta and a running back who is so quick that he could be their answer to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that is a really good sort of double dip for Johnson's offense there with Arroyo and Henderson. And you've taken an offensive lineman in the first round, remember. Jets have got to improve their run defense. And the best person to do that, in my opinion, is Tyleik Williams. I think short arms and a lack of pass rush will keep him on the board this far. Really good player, though. Really, really solid player. Put him next to Quinnen Williams. That'll help fix that run defense. Niners, I have got them continuing to build up that defensive line. Kenneth Grant in the first round, Nick Scotton here. Another edge, different type of player to Nick Bosa. Think he'd be better against the run than as a pass rusher, but solid with Grant in the middle. I think you're starting to build something there on that defensive line again for the Niners. 44, Dallas. They need a defensive lineman as well. I'm going to give them, if I can find him on this list. They don't seem to rate, either I've missed him or they don't rate him very highly. I'm going to try and find him. Pretty sure that you can search. Here we go. Alfred Collins. They've got him listed as an edge. That's why I couldn't find him. But he's very much a defensive tackle, not an edge. So there we go. Alfred Collins, big defensive tackle, had a really good season for the Texas Longhorns and lived up to the expectation. There was a lot of expectation on him the year before, and it was Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat who led the charge. Alfred Collins was the guy in 2024. So he gets taken at 44 by the Cowboys. And they need a player in that spot. Colts, I just think this is he's a very Colts player, the Colts type player, Carson Schwessinger. I could definitely see them taking it. I loved his tape. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. Just a fantastic linebacker. Bit of a one-year wonder. I accept that. But just plays his hair on fire. I really, really like him. 46. If Atlanta loses Drew Dolman, then they are going to need somebody who can play center. And I think some people see Zabel as best at guard. That's my view. Some do think he can play center. And I think given where the center class is, I could see teams sort of fighting over Zabel a bit. And I've got the Falcons taking him here. And it's a good zone blocker. So that's a good replacement for Drew Dolman. He's a bit taller, though. 47, Arizona. I have got them going defense as well. I think this guy is legit. Now, what he showed at the Senior Bowl was Chris Jones-esque with the way that he beat Josh Connolly off the edge. He was winning inside with quickness, with power. He's not going to be Chris Jones. Nobody is. But he's such a good player. I just think he's going to go in this range. And he's an option for the Seahawks at 50 as well. 48, Miami. I am not a huge Derek Harmon fan. Lots of pass rush production, not as much run defense production. I don't know if it translates to the next level, but a lot of other people like him more than I do. So I'm going to put him with the Miami Dolphins here at 48. 49, Cincinnati, another defensive lineman. I like TJ Sanders. I was a bit underwhelmed by Senior Bowl. I don't really know what happened there. Was he injured or something? He kind of just stopped after a couple of days. One and a bit days, actually. But I do really like his tape. Destroyed Georgia in 2023. Pass rusher. There's some untapped potential there with him. Really like him. He's the kind of player the Bengals draft. 50 in Seattle. We have been talking about this guy for a long time. And I've noticed that more and more people are now speaking about him on the internet. So that's the secret is kind of out at this point. But he is such a good player. Braden Swinson. Go and watch the game against Ole Miss. He is unstoppable off the edge. He's got 22% win percentage as a pass rusher. He's got length, power in his hands, gets around the edge, can stunt inside really quick, runs to the football. Personality is unbelievable. If he is a good testing session away at the combine from being a first round pick. And I just think he is fantastic. And when you watch that Ole Miss game, you might be thinking, if you're a Seahawks fan, I'd take this guy at 18. Because he has got so much potential, man. He is fantastic. So I don't know if he's going to last to 50. But the buzz is building. But we've been on him for a while. You know, I've had a second round grade on him, and I have moved him up to a fringe first. Because he is just He's fantastic. What a player. Harold Fannin Jr. here, I think his sort of stocks dropped a little bit because he didn't have an amazing senior ball. But when you watch the tape, it's just so difficult to cover. Really good player. Steelers need a receiver. Isaiah Bond, I'm not a big fan. I thought he had a more miss than hit final season at Texas, but after transferring. But some people like him. 53 Tampa Bay. They need a safety. Xavier Watts was just all around the ball, just constantly around the ball. Very clever player. And I think you add him to that sort of back end, and you've got a couple of playmakers back there for the Bucs now. 54 Green Bay. They love to take a receiver in this range. I am going to have them take, if I can find him on this list. Okay, I'm just going to type his name in because I can't find him on the list. Probably be listed as an edge rusher or something. Let's have a look. Oh, doesn't look as if they've got him on the list. Okay, this is going to be Jack Bech. But because he is not here, we will pretend that Aronde Gadsden is Jake Bech. But I tell you what, Gadsden, I watched him this week, and he's a heck of a player. He could go in this range. He absolutely could go in this range. He's a heck of a pass-catching tight end. So that is Bech, not Gadsden, but there we go. It could be Gadsden. He's that good. Okay, Chargers. Like as I mentioned earlier, they could lose both edge rushers. Oladejo just looks like a hardball player to me. And his senior ball, he played like his hair was on fire. Unbelievable. Alpha guy. Terrific player. Next, I have got the Bills taking Savion Jones. This is the kind of player that they seem to like. And the more I've watched of him, I thought it was great in the senior ball game at the start. Flashed in 1v1s and in the scrimmages. 3-spot athlete. Great size. The kind of player that the Bills seem to like. I think this, again, another LSU player has been slept on. I think this is the kind of range he's going to go. 57 Carolina. Another player that I think is being slept on. Ty Robinson. I interviewed him recently. Go and check that out. It's on my channel. I think physical, quick, 7 sacks last season. Great character guy. Going to be fantastic in your locker room. It's going to give you everything, every down. I think this is a really good fit for the Panthers. 58, Houston could do with another weapon. Jaden Higgins had a really good senior bowl. Got him going at 58. 59, the Ravens, continuing to build up that secondary. So Malachi Starks with their first pick. You know, Benjamin Morrison and Siobhan Revell are very good players, but they've had injuries and there's a few question marks there. So I'm going to have them take Maxwell Hairston here. I think it was smooth as silk at the Senior Bowl, and another cornerback for the Ravens. Lions at 60. Let's give them an edge rusher. JT Mo Lau. I mean, sorry, some of these names really difficult to pronounce. But JTT to the Lions at number 60. Thought he had a better playoff run. May just be a bit more athletic than Jack Sawyer. This could be Sawyer as well. I've mocked Sawyer to the Lions in round 1, but there's been a bit of talk that people aren't as high in the league on Sawyer. And his regular season tape was boring and bang average. And then he just turned into Max Crosby in the playoffs. So what is the real Jack Sawyer is what I would say. 61, Washington, Kevin Winston, a player who would go a lot higher than this if it wasn't for the injury. Very talented player. Buffalo back on the clock at 62. I have got them taking a player who might not be on this list. Let's have a look. He's not. So I've got them taking Joshua Farmer, but given that he's not there, I will put Jack Sawyer there instead. So we'll say he goes to the Bills. 63, Kansas City. I am going to give them Caleb Johnson. I love Caleb Johnson. I think he's a fringe first-round prospect. I don't know what's going on in terms of lack of hype. Maybe he has a great combine and goes a lot earlier than this. If he lasts to number 63 and goes to the Chiefs, shame on the NFL for allowing that to happen. And then the final pick in this mock, Shamar Turner, probably the most violent player that you're going to see on tape. Some people have called him dirty. But I've got him going to the Eagles with the final pick in this mock draft. So there we go. From a Seahawks perspective, Kelvin Banks and Brady Swinson are the two players that I've got them taking. If I was going to do a third round, then I would give the Seahawks a quarterback. I mentioned, go and check out SeahawksDraftBlog.com. There's a big breakdown on the quarterbacks that I did this week and on the defensive lineman and the offensive lineman in free agency and the draft. I just think there's going to be a middle class of quarterbacks. There's going to be a whole bunch of quarterbacks that go in round 3, round 4, and I do think the Seahawks are going to take one of them. You know, it could be Will Howard, it could be Quinn Ewers, it could be Riley Leonard. There are one or two others. I think later on I would double down and make sure I come out with Curtis Rorke. I think he's a really good fit for the Kubiak scheme. But I think there'll be options there for the Seahawks to go and get a quarterback this year. But I think with these first 2 rounds, it's set up that if one of the great offensive linemen in this class, and there are only a few of them, last 18, you can plug someone like Kelvin Banks Jr. in at guard. I think you've got to do that. And then if Braden Swinson's there at 50, it's a run to the podium moment for me. I can go and take him there. So I don't second guess that. And I think he could be something that you are not getting from Derek Hall, Boya Mafe, Chenna and Wosu. I think he's just such a good player. So, like I say, I'd probably give a quarterback to the Seahawks in round 3. But in this instance, we're 41 minutes into the video. I'm not going to go through a full round 3. Anyway, those are my thoughts. You are not going to agree with every single pick. I know that the comment section is going to be full of people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. But I've put a lot of time into this mock draft. I put a lot of time into researching these players. It's like a absolute full-on, full-court press on studying all of these players. Many of them I've watched 7 or 8 times from last summer until now. So even if you disagree, even if you don't think I've completely nailed team needs and stuff like that, remember there's going to be free agency before the draft. So what are needs today are not necessarily going to be needs in April. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think in particular about the Seahawks picks? And don't forget, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. There is a ton of stuff on there that you have got to check out. So head over to SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Even if you're not a Seahawks fan, go and check it out. Great community talking about the NFL and the draft on there as well. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Make sure you do both of those things. Let's go for the Combine next week. Big week ahead on Seahawks Draft Blog and this channel when the Combine kicks in. Wall-to-wall coverage on that event. But for now, enjoy the rest of your week. See you next time.